Welcome to Tanked Up. We are the video game playing craft beer drinking podcast. I'm Ben, and this week I'm joined by Aadil.
Hello.
Hey, dude. We're not joined by Alex this week because he's off on holiday, gallivanting around drinking lovely beers in Scotland.
Which hopefully we will hear more about
most definitely.
Next week.
Yes. However, we've got some lovely beers to drink.
That is true.
This week, the first beer I'm going to drink is Harbour India Pale Ale.
Oh, starting with an IPA, eh?
Yeah, I've got 2 IPAs this week.
Fair enough.
So I'm just starting with the slightly lighter one because the other one is the Sierra Nevada Torpedo, which is an extra IPA. So I thought
not quite a double IPA,
but
an extra IPA?
An extra IPA, not quite a double.
Is that because Sierra Nevada just has the regular IPAs and this one was lying around?
Quite possibly. Yeah. Been there for ages.
I'm drinking from Gahan Brewery, which is PEI, Prince Edward Island. Sir John A's Honey Wheat Ale. Sir John A. Macdonald being the first Prime Minister of Canada. And this is election week here in Canada, where hopefully we will end the conservative pseudo-dictatorship that's been going on for 10 years. So I thought, why not celebrate democracy in Canada with the smallest province's first Prime Minister beer.
Quality. So, this week we're going to chat about a few games to you, and we haven't got a topic as such. However, we've been playing the Star Wars Battlefront Beta, so we're going to have a bit of a discussion about that, and quite possibly put it over the top of some gameplay footage. So check that out once it's gone up. How's your beer? You just poured it.
I just poured it. It is, I don't know if you can see, as you can see, it's quite carbonated.
Yeah.
It's also pretty much honey-coloured.
Yeah, very similar to the Harbour IPA that I've got.
The nose is sweet, touch of malt.
I was going to say exactly the same thing about this.
It's quite sweet.
This is quite nice. It's very light. It's got a little hoppy taste, a little bit of bitterness, but not a massive amount.
Oh, wow.
A little sweetness.
This has no hops.
Really?
I mean, it probably has hops, but no hop taste. I mean, it's a wheat ale, right?
Yep.
It's actually not that sweet for a honey.
Okay.
I mean, it's sweet, but like it's not sickeningly sweet. The first taste you get is just a little bit of sweetness, and then it smooths out. I don't even know what that is. It leaves a slight drying in the aftertaste, which is suboptimal. Although it does make me want to take more sips to continue to put it off.
Strangely, this Harbour IPA, it's almost exactly what you're describing as well. It's got a little bit of dryness at the end. You sort of want another sip straight away. There's a slight bit of sweetness on the nose, but not so much in the taste. But I think this Harbour one's maybe a little bit more hoppy than you're describing. I'm sort of getting that a little bit more in this.
Well, that should not be surprising given the wheat versus Indian Pale. It's also very carbonated. But there's it tastes like a wheat ale.
Nice.
It's nothing. There's something going on with that right before that drying aftertaste, which is quite tasty and kind of unique. I can't really compare it. I'm not like Alex where I can pick up notes, but I can't actually find a beer in my mental catalog that sort of matches to this. It's quite good. I could have a few of these on a warm day. Actually, I take that back. A fall day.
Yeah. I suppose this is very similar. This is one that I could have a few, have a few of them on a day. That's my cat in the background because he's been shut out of a room being a dick. Go away. No, he's now being allowed into the room. So I suppose I shall start with a Metal Gear Solid 5 update. The last time we spoke, I didn't really know very much about replaying missions, but I went along and replayed a couple of the main story missions again, trying to get a better rank, do it in a better time, get some of the achievements for some of the missions and things. But it turns out that with regard to building Mother Base, the meta game where you're collecting soldiers to be able to then send them out on missions and get them to make some money for you and build resources and things to make your Mother Base larger. If you go into a replay mission, you can take extra people. It's not sort of based in realism in any way. It is sort of purely game as such, that you can come back and take these people from a previous event that you have done. There's no sort of timeline.
Do you have to what if you don't, on the second run through, don't save someone that you did the first time?
So with some of the missions, you have to save certain people. You can or eliminate certain people.
Right.
And you can either, if it's sort of saving a prisoner, you would have to extract them in some way, and that progresses the story because you get information from them to be able to open up the next mission. So I suppose if you don't extract that prisoner, the story can't continue and you would fail it as such. Whereas if you're taking out an enemy or a commander or something like that, you can add them to your army. You can get them back to your Mother Base.
Right.
Or you can eliminate them. So one of the missions that I replayed, the first time around I'd extracted him and he'd joined my Mother Base, whereas the second time I played through that mission, I eliminated him instead. Right. So that didn't have any bearing, he wasn't suddenly gone from my Mother Base. That wasn't then the updated timeline sort of thing. It is
the
really
most forgiving timeline, basically.
Yes, yeah. So it is, you're replaying that mission, but it will give you the best outcome, I think. So if you start extracting people, and I seem to find that you would. So when I did a mission sort of early in game, everybody's stats or the enemy's stats for each NPC was very low. So they were sort of D, C ranked in various stats. Okay. Whereas when I've gone back to do some of the missions, some of their stats have increased. So not everyone is better, but there'll be maybe 2 or 3 people which have maybe A or A plus stats. So, people that maybe you want to extract. And I've progressed the story quite far. I'm now in Act 2.
Oh.
So I put a few hours into it, about 50% of the way through the game. But I did read somewhere that there was a lot of complaint with Metal Gear that it seemed very unfinished. There was a lot of missions that didn't seem like they'd been put in, that within Act 2 there's a lot of repetition. And I found that some of the missions do exactly the same mission from Act 1, but on an extreme mode, or on a stealth-only mode, or on a procure weapons on sight sort of mode. So it's basically throwing the same mission at you but making it slightly harder. They're optional. You don't have to do those, even though they are main story missions as such.
Wait, the main story missions are optional?
So you get missions and then side ops. So missions, so far, through Act 1, I have had to do to progress the story. It's given me maybe 2 or 3 to be able to pick from. Right. You have to do all of them to progress the story. Whereas now, in Act 2, I'll get, say, mission 35 and 36... will be, mission 8 and 9 from Act 1 on a harder setting, but it doesn't seem like I have to do those. There are other story missions, and I've just been hitting those and progressing through those and not bothering with these repeated missions yet. So it might come to a point where it says, actually, you do have to try and do all of these, but I haven't progressed that far to know if that's a thing at the moment. So I'm still enjoying it. It's still a very good game. It's a little repetitive now.
Oh, that's really unfortunate. So, the story is... From last week you told us the story was flimsier. And now you're saying the story is also you're in no way encouraged to do all of it.
Well, so I suppose that doesn't... I don't know whether it gives you any sort of extra story elements to go back and do the same mission again on a harder mode as such. But I did find that towards the end of Act 1, I didn't have a choice of missions to play out. I would have to do mission, say, 26, and then mission 27, then mission 28. And I was getting a lot of cutscenes and a lot of story in between each of those. And it was dragging me back to Mother Base rather than allowing me to free roam around the area, doing lots of things and sort of picking missions as and when to do. So it did start to give me a bit more story. And when Act 2 started, you had a little montage of what was going to happen through Act 2. Didn't give a huge amount away. And it seems that within Act 2 there is a bit more story. I'm being pulled back to Mother Base a lot more to have little cutscenes in between missions. So it almost seems like the open world nature is still there, but they've then started to push a bit more story into it. So we shall see.
Fair enough.
I think I'm still a long way off from completing it. I think I'll still be playing it for a while. But
fair enough. I think mostly because I'll be going back to Calgary for a week. So my gaming will be... Any gaming I'll do, which is probably not a lot, will be on the PSP or my laptop. And I think I'm going to focus on the PSP because I've... ever since I only did the first 2 missions on Metal Gear Solid 1 months ago, and I'd like to go back to it, especially because you keep talking about it.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to try to play that as my game of choice. And one of the games I played this week, which is an old PSN game which I got for free on PlayStation Plus months ago, called Counterspy.
Oh, quality. Yeah.
I really enjoy that game. So I don't think we've talked about it.
I think I've mentioned it, but only very briefly.
Yeah. It's a sort of cartoony, stealth, covery shooter, 2.5D, in that it's mostly a 2D side-scrolling with a 3D environment, like 3D rendered. But you do have some depth because you can, at certain points, hide behind obstacles by hitting circle, and then you're able to aim in the different areas. So if you just walk down a hall, it's 2D, and your aiming will just be sort of up and down. And then if you're hiding behind an obstacle, suddenly you're viewing the room from a 3D space.
Yeah.
And then you have to do the standard shooter left stick scroll. The thing I suck balls at, and why I continue going back to the mouse. So that's given me some practice on sorry, I said left stick. Obviously, I meant right stick. This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But basically, it's Cold War. You've got procedurally generated maps. The idea is to you can either play domestic missions or foreign missions. The foreign missions are trying to collect the launch plans of the Russians, so you can launch codes, so you can stop their missiles. And so in the metagame, you're basically collecting... I can't remember what... I've only been playing Russian missions because I want more gear rather than money. I can't remember what happens. What are you trying to do in the
So you're
American
basically
side?
trying to avert a nuclear war between two countries that they very specifically don't call the USA and Russia. They're called something slightly different.
But
although you get a very realistic world map, and the two countries are in exactly the position of the USA and Russia.
So that you're at a different DEFCON level depending on how well you do the mission.
And if you're seen by an enemy, that raises the can raise the DEFCON level. You have a certain period of time to, or the longer that you don't take these people out and don't complete the level that you're in by hitting the button at the end, the faster your DEFCON level will go up. And if you get to DEFCON 5, perhaps, that's when you get game over, basically, because they have launched the nukes.
Because you, as the spy, have been spotted, and so you are now breaking international law, presumably, and so they find that as an Act 4, and then they attack. But the metagame also has a DEFCON level?
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember how you would bring that down. Is that
You can bring that down. You can do that through. You can use little perks,
right?
which will bring your DEFCON level down at the start of a mission. During missions as well, you can hold up officers or generals,
Right.
slightly higher ranking people, and they will bring your DEFCON level
And
down
you
as
do
well
that by
in
just
mission.
aiming your gun at them, basically.
Yes, yeah, and not killing them. They will run off and lower the DEFCON level
Yeah.
for you, and then presumably don't tell anyone that you're there and go and hide. I assume.
What I like about it is it's stealth, sight mechanics. But if you creep out, so if you sort of go diagonal down, you will be crouched on walking
Yep.
forward, and then you won't be heard footfall wise. You can hit square and do a stealth kill for more points. Points equal money to buy gear.
Yeah.
But also, if you like me, let go of the down a little too quickly, they'll hear your last footsteps and they'll start to turn, but you can hammer on it anyway, and
Yeah.
you'll do a karate chop to the neck and like you judo chop them and they crumple, and you get less points, but you still haven't wasted a bullet because you can't pick up ammunition really in that game. You can hold up to 4 weapons. One of mine's a silenced pistol, but you can only have a certain amount of shots with it, and so you can't just go through using the silencer. At some point, you'll run out of bullets.
Yeah.
So you have to sort of pick your weapon carefully. For example, if you're in an empty room but the door is covered by a camera, the camera spotting you counts as well. You shouldn't be using a silenced pistol to blow up the camera. That's just a waste of your premium bullet.
Yeah.
So I find it really fun, and even if all level doesn't take that long.
No, they don't. Not at all.
So you get this nice sense of continuity because there's the metagame going on, which is reasonable. Like it's strategy. So I tried to ask this earlier, and then we got distracted. If you do a mission in Russia, so you hit the right arrow and go to the red country, because I can't remember what the red country is called, so I'm going to call it Russia, which is actually also wrong because it would be the USSR if I was like
probably. Yeah, I think it's very 60s set, isn't it?
Yes, that's the other thing, and the music's great and sound effects.
Nice grainy effect on some of the menus and screens. Yeah.
But
anyway.
There you collect weapon plans, so blueprints for weapons is the item pickup you're looking for, so you can build new weapons. And then you're also looking for their launch codes.
Yeah, so I think with the US, you also look for launch codes, and that allows you to basically build up. So between each mission, you've maybe got to pick up 4 or 5 blueprints to create. So you in the metagame, you then build up through different levels.
Right.
And then Russia may allow you to pick up 2 of these, and the US mission may allow you to pick up 3 of these. So you can jump between the 2 of them. And the DEFCON level for each country is different as well, I seem to remember.
Yeah.
So if your DEFCON level is quite high with Russia, you might then go over to do some of the American missions. But I think with America, you can pick up perks and
money.
Money, yeah.
You get no money really from Russia, which is hilarious. But yeah, I just couldn't remember what the gimmick was for the blue missions.
But no, it's a very good game. You playing it on PlayStation 3?
PlayStation 3 and the Vita. And what's nice is it automatically syncs.
Yeah, that's good.
Including, I didn't really feel like finishing a level. I just stopped it on the PS3. Forgot I was playing it. Did some more cleaning around the house and getting ready to leave. And I turned on the Vita and it put me right back in the level.
Quality, nice.
But I mean, not that level. Sorry, not that procedurally generated level where I was standing, but it started me in a procedurally generated map in place of the other one.
Okay,
if that makes sense. So like,
yeah.
So I was on a Russian mission exactly where I was before. I don't have any progress saved, but it didn't put me back to the main screen. It put me in the mission. Like you can't.
Yeah.
If you're like, I kind of wanted to do a blue mission, you can't do that, which I like.
Yeah,
it's a good
nice.
balance
You've
between.
made your choice, and you will see it through as such.
Yeah, so I really like that game. I think it's a really good Vita game, although seeing it on the big screen, the graphics are actually quite good big as well.
Yeah.
I'm curious what it looks like on the PS4
It's nice.
versus the
It's nice
3.
on the PS4.
The only thing I really dislike on the Vita version is the loading time for the level is much longer, which makes sense. Like on the PS3, 20 seconds to load the map versus closer to 40, 45 on the Vita.
Really, I think on the PS4 it's shorter than that. I think it's only, you're looking at sort of like 10 seconds maybe.
Which makes
Not
sense.
even that, I don't think. But,
I might be exaggerating the 20 seconds, and probably I'm exaggerating the 45, but it feels like double.
Yeah, you sort of expect that, I suppose, with the computational power of each machine.
But the thing is, it plays identical. It looks great. Like I can't really complain about the loading time when it's not a dumbed down version. I mean, it is a simple network game, but still. Yeah. Anyway, that's the first game I was going to talk about.
Nice. I suppose as we're talking about a previous PS Plus game, I will rattle off last month's PS Plus games because I've delved into the 4 that were available on PlayStation 4. I know you've played one of them as well. The first 2 that came out last month were Zeo Drifter and Teslagrad. They're both Castlevania-esque or sort of Metroidvania style 2D side-scrolling platformers. You've got a lot of backtracking between the sort of the missions. You've got a lot of power-ups and things you can go and get and then reach different levels. Zeo Drifter is a pixelated sort of sci-fi space-based game, and Teslagrad is a very nicely hand-drawn, more
hand-drawn or cel-shaded?
It could be. I don't remember. I'm just picturing Zeo Drifter in my head now.
Well, why don't you tell me a little bit more
about... It's more of a Soviet-style game. So I assume it's...
Nikolai?
The further through you get, there's something based, I would imagine, to Tesla, and it's in some Soviet grad city.
Grad city.
And
that's
they've
where
got
all the graduates go, which is where you'll see
is.
Dustin Hoffman.
Both of them are nice games, but they didn't sort of hold my attention for a huge amount of time. Zeo Drifter did a little bit more because there were a few boss battles in that, and they're quite nice. They're quite simple mechanically to work out. Zeo Drifter it seems a little bit more simple than maybe Teslagrad is, because Teslagrad has a bit more puzzle sort of elements to it. But both were nice games, but if they weren't PS Plus games, I don't think I would have played them.
Which I think is the niche of PS Plus. Like they're, at least for the past, maybe just because, I was going to say summer drought, but that doesn't make sense because they're giving the games away. But, sorry, I lost my train of thought. It seems like that's what they're going for, is this sort of, maybe this will generate some word of mouth and sell some less known games.
Yeah,
rather
possibly.
Than in the Xbox Live world, for most of summer, you've been getting like old AAA titles, which sort of is more like a rewardy thing.
Yeah, I know they did. Xbox did Black Flag a few months ago, I think.
Yep, and they did the definitive version of Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider. Sorry.
Yeah.
I just felt like
the
I
reboot,
needed to say something.
Yeah. It does seem like there should be something else after that, but yeah. One of the other PS Plus games from last month that I played, which was the game that people through August were able to vote for, was Grow Home.
Oh, I've heard really good things about that game.
And that's probably the one that I played the most of. I've not completed it. I don't know how far through it I am, but it is a 3D. How do you describe it? It is a platformer, I suppose. You are a robot, and you have to get a plant to grow from the island that you jump down on all the way up to your spaceship. So it's sort of a vertical platformer game. And to be able to get this plant to grow, you have to scale it to get onto one of its limbs, to then allow that to grow into floating rocks of energy. And then the main plant will grow further and further up. The nice thing about it is that the way you control the robot itself is you obviously move around with the left stick, but there's a lot of climbing involved. So you use L1 and R1 to grasp and hold on with each hand. So you can climb up by tapping L1 and R1.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, and if you sort of jump off of things, so you've also got jump, you've got a couple of elements where you can pick up a flower, and if you jump through the air and then bang triangle, he'd get his flower out and use it almost as a Mary Poppins-esque umbrella to slow his descent.
That's not Mary Poppins. She could fly with hers.
Maybe she could. She's a bit cleverer.
Yeah.
Possibly. A bit more magical than just a little robot.
She's also, I think, the first cinematic usage of a bag of holding.
Quite possibly. Nice. Just pulls out a coat stand.
Yeah.
Loads of stuff. Don't see any coat stands in Skyrim, do you?
No. You also don't have a bag of holding, though, to be fair. You have limits.
That's true, yeah, that's very true. That's very true. But yeah, Grow Home was probably the nicest of the best of the 4 games that I played.
How is the visual style? How did you find that?
So, it's polygonal. Polygonal?
I think polygonal. Polygonal sounds like you're doing things with multiple polygons.
Yeah, it's nice. It's very colourful. There's barely any load time. It's all one map as such, so there is no load times really between it. It's very basic, but it is very colourful. It's very nice. It's very pleasing. It's got some very nice lighting effects. So there's a day and night cycle. So it doesn't really change how you move through, but it changes your or what you can see based on sort of light levels and things, which is very nice.
I guess how's the difficulty level then?
So, it's not very difficult. I mentioned to Kim, as I was playing it, that this would be a very good game for kids. It's very simple. The mechanics of, just banging R1 and L1 to be able to climb or grab onto things. You move around with the left stick, you've got X to jump. And later, if you collect crystals, it upgrades you to have a rocket pack, so you can jump and hold it down and you can boost very slightly, so for a slightly higher jump.
Right.
You've got the fall mechanic with the flower and a glide mechanic with a leaf a bit later on when you've upgraded some. And it's very simple. So yeah, it's very easy to play, really. But it doesn't seem like a very long game. I've not put a huge amount of time in it, maybe half an hour or an hour, and I'm based upon what I can see from the map and how far I've made this plant grow. I'm probably about halfway through it. So
okay, because I know the critics really called it an excellent action game. And I guess it sounds more like a platformer than an action game.
Yeah. You do actions, but you do actions in a platform. I would call it.
I think if you say an action game isn't a game in which you do actions, you've now just called it a game.
Yeah, very true. In all games, you perform actions.
Here's a call out to our listeners. Please tweet us at tankedup_cast if you can think of a game that doesn't fit into this definition of action games. Excellent. That sounds good.
It is. And the 4th game, which is one that I know you've played as well, is Super Timeforce Ultra.
Right.
Which I really didn't get on with.
I have to admit, I did the tutorials. That's it. That's all I did.
Oh, really? Okay. So
that's why when I said I played it briefly, I mean I saw the mechanics. I started the first level or whatever, but I just I don't know, because usually weird. Like I liked Braid. It's so. I guess do you want to give us a quick rundown?
Yeah. So it's a side-scrolling shooter. Very basic. In that, you move through the level. There's a little bit of jumping to get over obstacles, but it's mostly shooting enemies. You have I can't remember what the shoot button is, but if you hold it down, you then do a larger shot or a super shot as such. But it has an element of being able to rewind time or stopping time, and whilst you're rewinding time, you can bring in another character or a duplicate of your character to make attacks more powerful.
Right.
Some levels have time limits on, so you need to be able to progress through this level quickly enough, but you'll have an obstacle in front of you which will take maybe 3 characters to be able to get through. So you need to get up to it, rewind time, bring someone else in to be able to all shoot this at the same sort of time. And that's the part of the game that I really didn't get on with.
Yeah, I found I didn't. I also thought that's what I would like about the game.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
idea
definitely.
that you can. But I guess my problem was this idea that I can always rewind time and put another guy in, and I haven't played the game, so I don't know if it solves all the problems of just putting like 50 of the guy with the big gun, the warrior type class or fighter, gunner. That's the word I'm looking for.
Gunner, yeah.
Versus, so there's the gunner, there's the girl who's the sniper because she couldn't possibly do something, close. But I did I really enjoyed that her sniping bullets ricocheted.
Yes, they bounce
her
around.
2 powers were ricochet, and then her charge, her bullets just automatically ricochet, and if you charge, they go through walls and ceilings, which I really liked. And then there's the shield guy who can create a temporary protective shield for a while, or...
I think it ricochets bullets back at people, doesn't it?
But I can't remember what his other pseudo power was. But he, maybe it's because I'm just not a defensive strategic player, but he was pretty forgettable to me.
He is. You're forced to do all 3 characters during the tutorial, aren't you?
Yeah, and I just didn't. So I think that's probably what turned it off for me. Actually, was that one spot where you had to shoot through a wall, but you had to spawn all 3 characters. And I went back and tried it again by spawning 4 of the gunner, and that worked fine too. It told you spawn 1 of each and destroy the wall or whatever, but you could just as easily just use the gunner all the time and just make more and more and more of them. And I'm sure the developers have certain points and certain levels, some level design, which won't let you just outgun everyone. But because it's quote-unquote unlimited, the concept, when I saw that, I was just I assumed it would make me bring up to the 3 of them. But the cloning side really rubbed me the wrong way conceptually, and I just didn't seem to want to play. And it's rare that a gameplay mechanic, especially one that's sort of novel, turns me off like that. I was really sort of shocked in retrospect at how I just didn't care.
Yeah, definitely. It's got a very nice art style. It's very tongue-in-cheek with its story, which I quite liked. It's very comedic. The movement of the characters and the animations are nice.
It works.
But yeah, mechanically wise, I just didn't get on with it very well.
Yeah, and again, slowing down time and changing time is a thing that I've liked for a while. In fact, unless, do you have other things to say about Super Time Force?
No, not really.
Yeah, then I think, can I segue that to the game I played the most this week?
Yeah, definitely.
That's a little game called Max Payne 1.
Ooh, oh man, that's such a good game.
I know. First of all, I have the Steam version, and it is a fucking bitch.
Really?
To get working.
Oh.
It doesn't work. So the Steam download on a modern machine, Windows 7 and up, modern machine, will have no sound.
Wow.
It'll also not play full screen, especially at higher resolutions.
That's odd.
So through Google Fooing, there are people. It's apparently been like this for years. So there's a sound patch fix that you can download, and you just a quick Google or a search through the Steam forums will get you this little batch file, which converts every sound file to one that can get interpreted correctly by the operating system.
Yeah.
That is to say, something that should be updated by the fucking developer, Then I got sound. But then I could get it in widescreen, fine. I get that it wasn't coded where in the standard 16:9, 16:10 life.
So is it in 4:3?
It's sort of. But it gives you, by default, it gives you the options of whatever's available. It just won't go full screen in those.
Right.
Period. So someone whipped up a mod that's literally just the widescreen of the HUD.
Yeah.
So that kind of worked, except it wouldn't. At higher resolutions, you still can't full screen. So
it sounds like you've had massive problems with this.
It was a pain, but sorry, it was a Max Payne. It wasn't actually. GTA 5 was what I wanted to play this week, and it shit the bed again.
Yeah.
So I had to uninstall the entire thing and reinstall it.
Hours.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. The PC version's fun. All I really wanted to do was on the projector at night ride a motorcycle in first-person mode, because that's probably my favorite thing to do in that game. It is fun, and it makes you seriously tense. But I couldn't do that until a few days ago, a couple days, because and then I did it for 5 minutes. Was like, I don't care about this game anymore. But Max Payne was also a trial. But it's such a great game that I went through it and was glad that I got to play it again. I'm now about halfway through. I've done the baby level.
Nice.
The one thing about the widescreen mode is, in the baby level, those are hallways.
Yep.
Sorry, the nightmare level.
Yeah.
Call it the baby level because the baby
hallucinatory
cries all the time.
Tory nightmare level. Yeah.
And you walk through a hallway and it elongates. Because it wasn't coded for widescreen, you get weird clipping artifacts on the left and right. And you're like, oh, I see what the actual coded aspect ratio is, because everything looks normal within this range, and then it gets all fucked up. But other than that, the widescreen mod was really good, and it let me full screen to something that looked fine on the wall. And it's great. It is a fun fucking game.
It
I'm playing it on hard because I don't have an old saved game, so I can't play it on Fugitive or whatever the X. It's one of those games which you have to play it through on normal or hard, and then you unlock a harder, and then you unlock a harder, which I think is the hardest.
It's nice that they do. I quite like games that do that, because it gives you that replayability, but it also, you could very easily jump into the hardest mode, not be able to do it very well, get really frustrated with it, and stop playing. Whereas if you play on a slightly easier difficulty than the hardest mode, then it allows you to become accustomed to the mechanics, to the game, to how it runs and how it works, to then jump back in and be able to play on a much harder difficulty.
So when you mentioned Metal Gear Solid's repeat submissions, it immediately reminded me of this idea of sort of looping the game, but it makes so much more sense to encourage replayability of missions with a harder difficulty that's unlocked. So you can't start it. Like, you have to play it through once.
Yeah.
Just like everyone else, and then challenge yourself. But to make that part of the main storyline,
Seems odd.
Introducing the handicaps like that is just awkward.
Yeah. It seemed very shoehorned in. Almost
Unfinished?
like it was released a year before it probably should have been. There would have been other missions in place of that, and there would have been a different way of accessing previous missions on a more on a harder setting, possibly.
So last week we talked about Konami.
Yes.
And then we had our little... then they had their press release between when we recorded and when we posted.
Oh, I know where this is going.
But it still does seem, given your comments on the missions, that... to me, it feels like the budget went over. Kojima doesn't have the clout he does anymore, because mobile games are make them more money for less effort. Yep. And so they said, fuck this. finish the game.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they finish the game using this repeat mechanic that you're talking about. Design mechanic.
Yeah.
And then and that soured the relationship, and it didn't get better with Silent Hill, presumably because I tried to do the same thing. That's sort of the background story that seems most likely to me.
Yeah, it does. It almost seems that Metal Gear is going the way of Silent Hills because a trademark has been established for a big boss game, which is quite possibly a pachinko machine. So
I didn't want to steal your thunder on that one.
Oh man,
that's right. But there isn't a trailer yet.
No, that's
so
true.
If you are still curious, as far as I know, the only AAA franchise pachinko game trailer is Silent Hill.
It's the only one I've ever seen. We could see in the next few months a Metal Gear Big Boss trailer for a pachinko machine.
Yeah.
Japan's an odd place.
It is.
Or at least it's odder than my dining room where I live. So.
But you do have a yelling cat.
That's very true.
So anyway, so if you haven't played Max Payne 1,
yes,
play the fuck out of Max Payne 1.
It is bullet time is fantastic.
It is the first real use of bullet time. It is also the most effective use of bullet time I've seen, including Max Payne 2, etc. And the story is a comic, literally a comic. It's comic panels, and it's a silly noir.
Yep.
The whole thing takes place...
Detective story.
Yeah. A noir detective story that takes place basically over one night. And it's ludicrous, and it's written so well. The voice acting is spot on, because the voice actors talk through their speech bubbles, etc. And it's just satisfying. And it's not super easy. Like, I do the shame gaming tactic of quick saving and then quick reloading, just because I'm not that great, and I really am just playing for the experience. I think it's my third run through of the game, start to finish, if not my fourth. And so I don't really want to replay the entire level because of some sort of gamer code of ethics.
Yeah.
So I just hit F5, and especially if I've had trouble with the spot and I end up coming through with, I basically say, I'll hit F5 if I have half health and I went through a set piece. Where a set piece is a chunk of enemies.
Yeah. Nice. That's fair, man. I suppose before we move on to our discussion about the Star Wars Battlefront Beta, I shall briefly discuss the game that I probably played the most over the last couple of weeks. But we shall open up beers number 2. So I'm going to drink a Sierra Nevada Torpedo Extra IPA. It's a beer I've had before, but it's excellent. So we haven't had it on the podcast, so I thought I'd drink it. So Alex will cry because he likes this beer. But, oh well, he's not here. He's on holiday, having a good time.
Yeah. I've got a Boxing Rock. Another Boxing Rock beer. I've talked about it a bunch. Shelburne, Nova Scotia. It is the Vicar's Cross.
Okay.
It is a double IPA, not merely an extra, which means it also comes in, as you can see. How big do you think this bottle is?
It looks like a 500ml bottle.
No, because they want to give you that extra bit. It is a 650ml bottle.
Okay.
At 8.5%.
Ooh, nice.
So if things get a little sloppy...
Yeah, well, the Sierra Nevada Torpedo comes in at 355ml and is only 7.2. So possibly they've decided that double IPA is more than 7.2, which is why it's only an extra. It's very dark in colour, very amber.
Can I see? Do you mind?
You certainly can, yes.
Only
Aadil can see.
It's got good clarity, versus you can see that the Vicar's Cross is... Well, I guess that's a lot of reflections. It's very cloudy.
It is.
But not in that sort of... last week, I think you guys had that cloudy beer that Alex said looked like a homebrew.
Yep.
A poorly made homebrew. This is uniformly cloudy. Like, it doesn't have that sort of sedimenty vibe to it.
Yeah.
It is not as heady as or carbonated as the Sir John A's. It still generated quite a bit of head, but the bubbles are very small inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sierra Nevada's quite similar in terms of the carbonation. It's very hoppy. Think of a normal sort of Sierra Nevada, but sort of with a much heavier sort of taste,
right.
Much hoppier taste.
So the Vicar's Cross has a very light floral nose. The head is actually quite. It reminds me of a cream ale, actually. Like it's.
Oh yeah.
You can see.
Yeah. Viscous.
It's quite dense. And holds its form even when you poke it, as I just did for Ben's benefit. Benefit. But this nose is slightly hoppy, kind of floral. But sort of, I was expecting. I mean, they obviously didn't dry hop it because I was expecting with a double IPA to really get that sort of hoppy bitterness in the nose. But it's really smooth, sweet floral.
Nice. Good.
Oh wow, that's it. That is an excellent beer.
Excellent. So's the Torpedo. I really like this. It's got that big hoppy flavour.
So for a double IPA, I'm actually surprised. It's not in your face. The hops are like start to finish. Just nice solid hop taste. No, a little citrus, but again more like floral. But it's just smooth. Like the taste profile is smooth, straight, right way through. You don't get the sort of dips and valleys of sort of this is the start, this is the mid, this is the finish.
Okay.
You could sort of taste the strength in that you're like, oh, this is strong, but you don't have that strong alcohol taste that usually goes with a near 9% beer.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Good. So I will move on to a game called Party Hard.
Oh yeah.
Which I thought was associated with Andrew WK and the song Party Hard, but it isn't at all.
By associated, you mean inspired by, or like actually?
Quite possibly. There is a rock paper shotgun review of the game, which uses a lyric from the song Party Hard from Andrew WK. But I think that's the only association.
Fair enough.
Somebody else has made. But it's a murder simulator. And it's all about a guy who can't sleep because there's a party going on. So at 3 a.m, he gets up and goes and murders everybody. So the game is a lot like Hotline Miami in terms of its aesthetics. It's pixelated. It's almost top down, but you get a very side view of the characters and some of the environments. And you are basically the murderer, and you have to go around this party killing people. And to do that, you can either use your knife to stab them, or you can set up traps within the party that's going on. So you bowl your way into this, along the level, you bowl your way into this house, and you can do things like poison food or drink. You can drop things on people. You can push them into fires. There's lots of different traps to be able to use to basically kill everybody.
Okay.
And it's just fun. It's just really fun.
What do you have an antagonist, like an active antagonist, or?
So you have there is a storyline that a very swift sort of 30-second cutscene in the pixelated style, which plays out between each of the levels, and each of the levels are different parties around the USA, and it tells a story of.
So you're trying to sleep, but you.
So yeah, in the first level, you're trying to sleep, and you go downstairs to the party that's going on, and then just go on a murderous rampage across the country.
I feel like I'm missing a plot point. So I'm at a house, people are making noise, I kill them. Why do I go somewhere else where there are parties? Or is this like an anti-party movie?
Why does anyone do anything?
But there's no motivate. It doesn't tell you why he.
It kind of explains it through the story a little bit through these cutscenes as they go on, and the cutscenes focus on the cop that's trying to chase you across the country. Basically,
so there is a sort of prime
there is
antagonist.
The people that are at the party can phone the cops if they find a dead body. They can phone ambulances to come and pick people up. The FBI can come along, and they can come along, and if they see you committing a crime, or committing murder, then the cops will come along and arrest you, and that is game over. And it's very quick in that you can instantly hit that restart level button and go again. And really, it's a bit more stealthy than something like Hotline Miami is.
Really?
You're not just, with Hotline Miami, it's a bit quicker, I think. This takes a little bit of time. You sort of figure the level out, where people go, the paths that they take. You can also dance. And by dancing, if you stand next to somebody and dance, they might dance with you, or they might tell you to fuck off and beat the shit out of you, or go for a little walk and wander into an empty room where you can follow them and murder them.
Interesting. This sounds... Is there a multiplayer game?
No, it's just this. It's just this.
So
it is fun.
It reminds me of a less targeted The Ship.
Yeah, very much, very much. Everyone is obviously an NPC because there's no multiplayer, and you've got maybe between 40 and 60 people per level, and each level is themed. So you may go to like a frat party or a party on a boat, or a more redneck-based party in a forest. And each of them have themed traps to them. But it's nice. Played it on Steam. It's only about a tenner over here. So it's.
I was just going to ask you what platform. So it's a PC game.
Yes, yeah, very easy game to play.
Oh, I looked it up. It's a PC, Mac, and Steam play game.
So that is a very swift rundown of Party Hard.
It sounds really interesting. I've added it to my wish list.
Excellent.
How did you find out about it quickly? Holy Jesus!
Well,
you've played 9.2 hours of this game.
Yeah, it's
9 hours.
As I say, it's the game I played most over the last 2 weeks since we podcasted last.
I'm surprised because it's a sort of a. It seems
it's one of those games that you can complete the level in about 10 minutes, but it's very easy for the cops to get you. Right. Basically, if someone phones the cops, unless you can escape from them, and you can do so by jumping through windows, and the cops will give up after a certain amount of time. But then if they're called again, they come back
Windows in the game, not jumping through your operating system.
Yeah, exactly.
Not worth interrupting you. I apologize.
That's all right. So, actually, as the time is the time, I have to disappear very soon. So we shall move on and discuss Star Wars Battlefront, the beta.
And for those of you paying attention, that's Battlefront the reboot, not Battlefront 1, which was an alright game. One of the games I played the most in the early 2000s, in single player with bots, as well as online, is Battlefront 2. I fucking love that game. I actually purchased it in my era of game piracy.
Nice.
And I bought it more recently on Steam, which on, say, G2A, for example, you can get for a real reasonable price. It's still super fun. What are your first impressions?
I really like it. It's got a very Star Wars feel to it. The music is fantastic. It looks really good. I've been playing it on PS4.
I've been playing it on the PC.
There's only 2 games available.
Game modes, yeah.
But both of them are very fun to play.
Yeah.
I have found it maybe feels on one of the game modes, which is the Hoth battle, slightly unbalanced towards the Empire.
Which, to be fair, is what it should be, because the rebels fucking got owned in Hoth.
I completely agree. There's been a lot of people saying, it's a Battlefront. You should be able to forge how the battles are won.
Right.
And I think that's fine. That's great. However, in Star Wars lore, the Battle of Hoth was very difficult for the rebels. They had insurmountable odds. So, within the game, it should be very difficult for you to be able to do this. It obviously should be achievable.
Yeah, I was going to say...
It's being made by DICE, who make the Battlefield games.
Yeah.
They go against something like Call of Duty as a very squad-based team kind of game. Mm-hmm. So you can understand that in something like the Battle of Hoth, which is a difficult game if you're on the Rebels side, that you maybe need to put in a bit more teamwork to be able to achieve what you need to achieve on the level.
I completely agree. I also think that it's refreshing. So one of the things that hope will be a topic earlier, or later rather, I should say, I'm hoping is I'd like to talk more about at another time the idea of balance in multiplayer.
Yeah.
But it's refreshing to not have that, even at the even at the map level versus like in RTSs you see this a lot. But makes things very superficial and skin based between the sides.
Yeah,
in a lot of to a gameplay extent, and I like that. I like that it's that map. Yeah, the first time I played it, the Hoth map, I was the Rebels, and it wasn't easy. It seemed like, oh yeah, I just have to defend these uplinks. So I'll pick one and defend it, and then the walkers strolled in, and you're like, oh right, these don't die easily at all. They are not like 50 stormtroopers where I could technically use 60 shots with headshots and get them all dead. But yeah, it was really good. I have to admit though, I played more of the balanced. The other mode is like a capture escape pod mode.
Yes, yeah. And to be fair, I also played a lot more of that level. It's a slightly smaller map. It's unlike the Hoth level, which is very much like Rush from the Battlefield games. It's a bit more constricted. It's only 8 versus 8, whereas Hoth, I think, is 20 versus 20.
Yes, it's quite big.
So it's a much
smaller
smaller
map is huge.
Yes, Hoth is massive.
So those 20 people can be in very different places.
Yeah. And the drop pod mode is on the planet which is in the new Force Awakens film.
It starts with an S.
Yeah, the name escapes me as such. But the difference with that is that it's very quick. So you have to collect, or you have to get 5 pods,
or
have the most amount of pods collected within a 10-minute time limit. Whereas Hoth can go on for sort of 15, 20, I think maybe it's about 15 minutes by the time that the Empire will force their way through, by the time the AT-ATs have moved through the level. But it's a lot quicker. It seems a lot more balanced and just a lot better, I think, than the Hoth battle, which seems more like a set piece, which seems like a selling point, but something that maybe came a little bit later.
Yeah, I felt like it had to be in the beta. That's how I felt. It shows off the vehicle-ish combat.
Yeah. You can jump into the AT-ATs, or you can jump into an AT-ST. You've got X-Wing, A-Wing, TIE fighters, TIE interceptors that you can jump into. So it does show off a bit of that vehicle combat in that level.
But it also ends up highlighting my biggest complaint with the game.
Okay.
Well, yeah. Which is no more space battles.
Yeah, it would have been nice.
Battlefront 2, the space battles... The maps were actually quite small for space, and the objectives were really meh.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was super fun.
And I think this is like a pared-down version, isn't it?
Well, part of it was in Battlefront 2, which can't be confused with Battlefront 2 coming in 2017, was it did not take anyone that much effort to figure out how to fly a spaceship in that game.
Yes, yeah.
It was dumbed down. You couldn't do a lot of, like, you had a boost. That was pretty much the only thing where, at least with the X-wings and stuff, you would do like a loop-to-loop, to avoid a lock-on.
Yep.
Other than that, there was pretty much no evasive maneuvers that would get you rid of the lock-on. Super simple combat. You push a button or you don't push the button. You get hit or you don't get hit. But at the same time, it was a lot of fun, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's a Star Wars game. And you know what? I want to easily fucking fly an X-wing and make it seem like things are going super well and I'm part of Rogue Squadron.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's how it should be. And the fact that they have X-wings and Y-wings flying on the planet level but didn't bother with space means I'm thinking either DLC, because clearly they have the mechanics down, or they just couldn't be bothered to figure out how things go. Yeah,
definitely. So that is our very brief discussion about Star Wars Battlefront. We will have a larger discussion and possibly a video up at the end of this weekend, although then the podcast comes after the weekend. So you may have seen that already. But this is the end of the podcast. We have been Tanked Up. You can get us on Twitter at tankedup_cast. I'm, as always, at Nova_47. Aadil is at the Omniarch.
And you can
find us on Facebook. You can find us on YouTube, all as Tanked Up. On YouTube with Tanked Up Cast. Or you can email us at tankedup.cast@gmail.com. That's been us for another week.
Oh, just one quick second.
Yes?
Name your beer of the week.
Oh, very difficult to pick. I think I'll go for the Harbour IPA. Okay.
Mine's definitely the Boxing Rock, although if you aren't into hops, the Sir John A's is a very smooth, solid beer.
Excellent. Good. So, we shall catch you soon.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Ciao.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, so basically I still have a hard-on for Battlefront 2.
Yeah, oh, that's fair. It's a fantastic game.